Hello, my friends. I'm here with Patricia Aguirra, and who is a likes to call herself a psychological coach. She has a background in psychology, Buddhism, Tantra, a lot of different things, and of course, embodiment and lots of different ways of embodying yourself within this body, in this moment, in this time. She and I have been involved in multiple projects together, including including the Wild Empress Coven for a while. Uh, and I just wanted to have this time to talk with her and see what's going on for her, what's alive for her right now, and what 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 is sparkling or drowning in the world, in our worlds right now. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Hi, thank you. And I love this introduction, right? What's shining and what's drowning. And I love the words because we're not used to speaking with this terminology from this place. And I think it's really needed. I mean, when we talked this week about getting together and getting something online, um, you mentioned talking about the female side of embodiment and somatics and this female side to this all of these approaches. Um, and I think it's definitely, I mean, there's a lot that women and men, of course, but speaking mostly about women today, there's a lot that we can benefit from in all of this world, the embodiment world, the therapy world, the coaching or the therapy. But I think particularly embodying a women's body, eventually you come to a stop and you come to a place where you need something else or something, some add-on, some shift, something. Yeah. That
Yeah.
I mean, some stuff out there, but we're definitely just, scratching the surface here.
Yeah. I feel like for me in my life and in my process, like up until 40, I was kind of packing the house and let's add on this and let's do that and let's put this in. And I was doing somatic work and I was doing a lot of really recuperative work as well. But I wasn't doing the sort of deep dive slowness work that I came to where it was like, okay, now it's time to unpack the house. And it's not that we're not going to keep, working with the foundation and all that stuff. Like, yes, we're going to do all that stuff too, but I don't need to add more. I need to take things out. I need to soften, release, and let go of the stuff that's not working anymore, which is a lot, especially being a person in the world right now.
Yes. This is a great word, right? I did say like add-on stuff, and I don't necessarily mean like accumulate or one more course, one more degree that all of us fall for that at some point. I still do myself, but yeah, it's definitely more than adding on. It's more like an adaptation. That's sort of like how I see it. And it is very true that, as you said, at some point you have to unpack what you learned. And this is probably what I love the most, or one of the things I love the most about embodiment and working with the body. It's not about getting the right answer. It's not about finding the ultimate nature of truth, which I have gone through those routes as well. And it's definitely interesting and definitely lots of richness there. But it never has the same quality until you really get it into the body and into your life.
Yes.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. The into your life thing. I feel like so the modality that has been one of the most helpful things to me is continuum movement. But even continuum movement, like it's like, okay, I'm going to go into my flow. I'm going to feel in my body. I'm going to be in my body of water. I'm going to process. But then I need to bring that into my life as well, right? Like I need to be able to track what's going on with my nervous system. And I feel like that work really helped me start to notice, oh, something's happening here. I'm going up, I'm going down, I'm moving around. But and I've also been doing like a lot of non-dual meditation with Michael Taft and some Hindu Chaiva Tantra, like which I love. But at the same time, I feel like all of these are often coming from a male perspective, and there's like, this is the thing we're doing, and this is how we're doing it. And like, mine's a little more messy than that. Like, it, my practices are sometimes like, oh, this morning I had to do a lesser banishing ritual because like I've known that since I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like, I need to bring in these older things, and then I need to just lay still. You know what I mean? I need to be in stillness and feel what it is to be in me right now. And then, and it's like, and maybe I'm going to do some mantras, maybe I'm going to do some sounding, maybe I'm going to do some stuff, but I feel like, or maybe I have to just make art. Like, I feel like navigating what makes me feel, and I'm just going to say alive. What makes me feel vitality? What makes me feel alive? And I don't mean upregulated alive necessarily. It could be very internal, downregulated, but like I know I'm in that like the elements. I'm in the murky growth. And like I feel like those are the things that are sort of most important to me at the moment. Like how am I relating to these? And I feel like living or these archetypes or these, these living spaces, these living earth things, parts from the earth, from the water, from the air, these things that are making up our life.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is like so important to me in my practice. And this is what's messy. It's like, oh, it's mud today, and tomorrow is a sandstorm, and the next day it's something else. But I feel like this isn't something that's so talked about
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. I think you're coming to one of the pillars of what I would say is a big difference between the male-oriented techniques, whether in psychology and more classical psychology, to spiritual or somatic practices. I think one key difference in spiritual practices, I wanted to add, is this need for structure and for the you should be doing. It's
Right.
very classical that we think of going to a therapist to tell me how to not do what I'm doing and tell me how I should be behaving at work, with my partners, with my children. So it's always like not this, but that, right? And coaching sometimes is also that. Spiritual practices are also that, because even, not here enlightened, not here more polished. Even sitting meditation in a lot of traditional schools are about polishing yourself and cleaning, whatever word you want to add here, karma, sin, whatever,
Waking up, cleaning up, growing up.
any word it's
Yeah.
here, somewhere there. And it's a should, right?
Yeah. But you
And
aren't there now.
yes, not now, and hurry up, because these sins are, adding up. And again, not to really like demonize all of it, because I think that has its place and its time. But we also need a place and time for the what is as is, which is what you're coming towards when you're just saying, just want to be with what's happening. And I think this is beneficial both for women and men. But I have found that for women, our thirst for this is closer to us. And even though we will benefit from sitting hours, going to a silent retreat on top of a whatever mountain, helpful, but and I've heard of many, many women, I have been through these phases myself, would share with me that how much something's missing, or there's still like a thing that these practices are not getting them towards. And it's really being with and of course the trick about really not running, because this is sort of like the bypass of these very rigid or very linear practices. You're bypassing developing the capacity to be with what's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of those techniques become running away from, become fleeing, become bypassing, become avoidance, which is so common, right? These days, not surprisingly, because a lot of our structures favor that. Get over it. The past is the past. Just let time do its thing. It's not so important. You're being too emotional. All of these things are sort of like, again, they might have some seeds of truth there, but if we misuse them, they take away this capacity to be with. And there's a lot of power in being with whatever is happening at the moment, that sometimes, many times, it turns out to be messy, as you were saying.
Yeah. So for you, what like what types of things do you do? Right? Like what are the witness practices, right? To be with. That's a bioakomalafe word. Witness, to be with. what with yourself, with this exact moment, with the messy stuff, with all the junk?
I know which one's my number one go-to, which is community. This is something that I I wish you could. I mean, I think it's such a valuable tool. I know for many people, personally, this is my go-to. When things get messy and when things get to this place of it's already disorienting, or I'm not finding my center in between these things. And I want to be able to be with a friend. It's usually a woman who can hold the messiness and who can be with. And I love how I have this particular like phrases already said with these friends. um I just need a sounding board, or I need to, like vomit what's in my head or what's in my body, what's in my heart, or I need to hear your input on this when I'm like all over the place and I don't necessarily know. So this space to just let it be without necessarily correcting it, without necessarily diagnosing it. And it's so valuable to have someone who can be in that place where they're not trying to correct you. Because I mean, I don't want to get into this. This is like a very nuanced part of the conversation, but how someone sees you has so much to do with how you're experiencing that, right?
Oh
So a
my
person
God.
who's not like, I'm scared about what she's sharing, what's going on, I need to do something, I need to jump into the conversation. And so someone who can remain open and present is such a valuable gift. And
Do
that's
you
my
feel
number.
like do you have a lot of people that do you feel like I mean, you don't need a lot. You need one or two, right?
No, I don't have a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, fortunately, you don't need a lot, but it's not an easy quality to find in people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting and I love that you said community, right? Because I feel like so much, and that's a missing link so often is that people think that they're here alone doing this thing and it's just them. It's one thing actually in the Laban work, there was a centrality to the idea that we're always balancing the individual and the group. And I feel like that's just not American. And just to say for people watching, if you don't know Patty, she's in Mexico. But like in the US, it's like, rugged individualism. I'm doing this thing. And it's like, but are you? Like, and the the communal holding, there's a group of people that I've been following this Odyssey of Embodied Spiritual Learning with Mary Abrams, and it's been like a year long program. Like once every month or two, we get together for a weekend, and we're coming up on a whole week long retreat, which will actually be a silent retreat, but it's in the sort of realm of continuum and moving and with being with this group, and it's really amazing to have had this time to forge along with a group coming together in these times. And we've done it in multiple ways. Like we've done it through the lens of the affects. We've done it through the lens of dreaming. We've done it through what else? Touch. So this is the silence one. And it's just each time the container, like all of these people have a cajillion years of experience of being in these types of spaces. So I feel like, oh, it just feels really profound and humbling to be a part of this system. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, this is how can like this is just amazing. There's a few other groups that I'm part of. Like there's Michael Taft Sangha, which is a bunch of really interesting people, but it's still very masculine. And like there are women in there too, but it's a very male space. I just although it's interesting because I think just to name this on the spectrum of like people that are teaching about being with, like Michael has this one meditation called what if? And the what if is what if this is it? All the messiness, all the shitty stuff that you're feeling, all of the things, this is it. And I feel like that particular idea has helped me so much. So it's like it's not just coming from the female realm, but this like, here we are,
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's even like in the more on the traditional techniques, psychological techniques, therapeutic techniques. I have found that even though they don't mention this, this is what we're aiming for. And this is what, at the end of the day, brings that clarity or that insight or that point where the person shifts into something else. And of course, since I have this background, this is how I can read that and see what's happening. But never in the trainings, never in the books do you hear that this is what people are doing. And I would say even the highly trained people who design these techniques in the first place, they didn't necessarily have this knowledge of more like on the spiritual realm of what's happening in searching for that truth and for the messiness of being with what is. But that's what's happening, and I see it every day in my work, how reaching that point really helps people so much.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's like, yeah, it's profoundly like, I mean, if and I yeah, I feel like it's profoundly life altering if you
Yeah.
can be with what is and not need to change it. And that's, I mean, that's one of the big things that I got from spending a lot of time doing continuum was that, oh, I don't need to fix the problem. Like I grew up in a family that was very like helpful and like, oh, there's something, this is what you should do. And you got to go over there. And oh, there's somebody needs some help, go help them. Like that was my family. And I think it's wonderful to be helpful and generous. But sometimes you just need to sit back and let other people do their things and not insert yourself,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
And adding a layer of the somatic vision, I've noticed how much energy goes into trying to reject what's there.
Yes.
So much energy. It's every time I touch upon that, I'm still in awe of where we get so much resource in our bodies to hold that tension, to keep the fight, to keep the running, whatever that means in everybody's life. But those responses of the energy to not be with what's behind you that you've been running away from for years, 20 years, 40 years, and it's no longer there, right? But our response is still embedded in our bodies. And
Yeah.
you're fighting cheer at the corner store. You're fighting the partner who has nothing to do with the story. But that's so active. And it's impressive how much energy goes into that.
It's interesting. I was with a woman that I know. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this because probably we were at the gym and she kept getting triggered by everyone around her. And I was like, but nothing's happening. But they are. They're assaulting me. I'm like, but they're not. Like you're perceiving that. And we kind of unpack, and she was angry and all this stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, you're at the gym. You're in your body here. If you are angry and you're experiencing this trigger and you're just going with it, you're just enforcing that in your system. Like you are locking it in because you're active and you're like giving your cells a really good way to know this feeling. Like I feel like people go to the gym like to work out their demons. And it's like, I feel like you're just installing them. It's like because you're energetically doing this work and like you're trying to run away from something, but it's there in your face. And it
Yeah.
turned out we combed through it a little bit more, and it turned out her previous work had involved stuff that made her very angry. And she was in some of the same positions when she's working out. And it was like, okay, you got a lot of stuff to let go of, but you can't like, you can't not be in the world because the world is a threat. But like the story and the pattern, it can be reinforced so easily. And we get so locked into our stories and then we're locking them into our bodies. And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
how do we find the breath? How do we find the energy and not just keep reinforcing a pattern, you know?
Right. And I mean, to add on to that, um, I mean, I want to give the respect of the biology of trauma, right?
Oh
That
yeah.
it's beyond our choice to keep, running away from something or keep trying to defend ourselves of something that was important to so important to be defended of, that we keep doing it even if it's not there.
Right.
Even on a spectrum, there's like trauma responses that are so installed in the body that we don't know them, that we're not choosing
Yes.
them. and that we do need help. And I want to sort of like give the space that we sometimes do need to do some sort of thing, whether it's therapy, whether it's shamanic work, whatever you want to do, right? But so it's not entirely up to or our choice, right? But also in many points along that spectrum, and even in severe trauma cases, we can acknowledge that it's a response we no longer want to carry.
That's it. Yeah. And she's like, I keep doing this. What am I feeding?
Yeah.
Like she was aware of it in a way, you know, and it was like, yeah, there's this thing going on. It's a loop. But it
Yeah.
is like it also and it's not like, oh, we suddenly have all control over everything. Like, and I don't want to blame anyone. It was like I felt like we just sort of opened something up and we're like, oh my God, this is what's happening, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. 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 Exactly. That level of noticing what I'm doing through my body and how
Yeah.
that's affecting my quality of presence. That's gold. I mean, gold. Even if we cannot, the next question is always like, so what do I do about it? Right. But just getting there is so valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like just a little moment of, oh, that's the thing. That's why it's so strong. That's why you know, that's the draw. And the charge, like I talk about this a lot. The fire, the charge, it's like we want some of that in our life and we need some of that. It's the sun energy, it's the solar energy, it's the drive and the passion and all that kind of stuff, but it can burn us, right? Like, and the thing is, it's funny, I feel like sometimes when like especially with the relationships, like if there's a huge charge around that relationship, there's a good chance that that thing's going to burn itself up, right? But when you can come in and be like, oh, this isn't thrusting in that way, then there's like space to be there, right? I feel like that's the thing. When you feel that crazy charge, look out. Right? That's when you need to go, uh-oh, there's
Yeah.
a pattern in me that I am finding and it's here. Yeah.
You know, there's this phrase that's very popular in the embodiment world. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And I think it's stuff that is revealed to us till we give it some pause. Sometimes the smallest, the shortest pause through a conflict, through observing yourself at a conflict, through sitting and reflecting, through allowing that uncomfortable feeling to be there. Sometimes this is where we start to notice these patterns, and then you're like, oh, actually, this is how I've been trying to deal with everything in my life, right? Not just this argument I had with a random person, but in a lot of spaces in your life. And I think that's super valuable as well. Also, something that somatics embodiment really bring you close to, because again, not to discredit the value of talk therapy. That's also one of the things
Yeah.
that I mainly. But sometimes it's easy to bypass these harder truths when we're just talking about it. And even as therapists, if you're not somatically trained, you will not notice it, right? Like, yeah, of course, I'm super relaxed, but you're noticing how the person is clenching and tensing, and you're noticing how the person is defending the right to be, relaxed. And we don't notice that because we just go with that narrative of I'm a relaxed person because I want to think that I am, or somebody told me that I was at some, or even worse, because I got a paper that says I have relaxed.
Here's the
It's like,
proof. I have a
yeah,
certificate of relaxation.
I did a 20-minute course that says now I'm a relaxed person. And I mean, I'm joking around this.
I know.
So, for anyone who listens, but because I mean, we've all been there. I've been there myself, where you're like, oh, I'm not where I thought I was, or I'm doing these things that I thought I had left behind, or that I know better. And this is the beauty of somatics. This is the beauty of embodiment. It brings you back with that dose of humility that I think keeps us grounded.
Oh yeah, I feel like I experience that all the time. I'm like, what? What just happened? Like,
Yeah,
but I'm so enlightened. How can this
yeah,
be happening to me? And I mean, that's what makes me also realize just like the point of life is to live, right? It's not to shut it down. It's to be present with whatever's going on. And I mean, often I feel like that is it's the drama, right? Not that it all has to be dramatic, but like we love drama. We watch TV, we read our books, we watch movies. We love this whole thing. Every time I think things are going really well, it's like I get just shoved up against some
Yeah.
boundary of my own like stupidity. You know, like, oops, I thought I had worked through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to talk about what you mentioned about the drama, because it's an interesting concept, right? From these angles that we're discussing. There's a lot to say about not going into drama and not going to story and knowing when healthy emotion and emotionality, that's sort of like adding that edginess to it. It's important to work through that distinction, but to the defense of drama as an adaptation mechanism, um, sometimes we are used to having to solve things on our own so much, so individualized, so into ourselves, that it just becomes so bottled up that we're trying to sort all of these eruptions that are happening inside organically, that we don't necessarily know what to do with it. And at some point, there's so many bubbles inside that from the outside, this is what we will call drama. And what I see sometimes when I see these situations is an attempt to solve it on your own. And it's like, sweetie, no, like, come here, right? And sort of when we feel that capacity to not have to hold it in on my own and figure everything out and sort every emotion and analyze and intellectualize and go beyond every emotion all the time. And it's okay to be upset, but know how to be upset, right?
Yeah.
But allowing it to be there really allows that edginess of drama to come out, to come down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's
Also,
really,
like your gesture was so community based, right? The gathering, you're like, no, come on in, come on in. That deep acceptance of, yeah, of what's
yeah,
actually going on.
yeah. And in many of our cultures, I mean, the US is probably at the top of the charts here, but
We
the market,
win.
uh, how much we are trained to solve things individually, and that's a good thing, right? That's a praise, and that's something
Yeah.
that has pushed cultures, again, not necessarily demonizing. It's what got us to, the modernity that we have, but it also has been at a cost.
Yeah.
And one of these costs is to think that we can individually work through things that are not meant to be dealt with individually, and it's
Yeah.
okay to admit to ourselves from time to time.
I have a weird little story that just I feel like ties in with that, like the community and like the value of community and also the value of rhythm. And it's a friend of mine who's from Haiti. She told me that when there's a Haitian who doesn't have rhythm in their body, the family will lay them down and tap on their body so that they can receive it, right, through rhythm. And just bringing this idea in that, like, historically, how did people come together in community? Through rhythm, through song, through dance, right? We moved together. We sat around the fire in the circle to know that we were safe with each other. So just that circling into that community place again. I feel like that's something that we have lost so much of. And also, well, it's one of the things with the family constellation work, like letting the community sort out the issue. And I will say, like, the constellation work, I feel like is some of the most profound work I've ever done.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been through of course, a big journey with family constellations, because I've been around this for a long time. It's one of the main things that I do. Um, but I am every time I work with, I use this method. I am always amazed of how deep it can go. Um, I yeah, the results, the feedback from people. I shy away from anything that sounds too magical, and I'm not saying it is, because it doesn't work on everybody, and this is why I use a lot of other like therapeutic methods to get the person ready to a place where a constellation can actually have all of its effect, because it sometimes it can be done, but it won't have an effect because the person or the system is not ready. And there's like a technology that needs to be followed for that to happen in most cases, which is sort of one of the explorations that have been close to me in the past almost decade. So a long time now. One of the things that I really like is how during a family constellation, you can integrate so many layers of experience, of existence, not just sort of like the relational and the emotion, but it can really go beyond. The creator of the method, he's not alive anymore, but he used to say that one family constellation can equate, I think he's used to say 2 years of therapy. And when that can happen, because it cannot happen every time, but when it does, it's such a joy to me to see how, again, these traditional methods could take you there, but it's going to take you
a long time.
A long time. And we want to leave.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I found like it just shifted some patterns in my life that I had been spiraling for a long time and needed to like pop through.
Yeah.
Yeah, which were huge. And I've seen it for other people. Like I've been in constellations that other people like made some big changes that had huge life altering results.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
positive. Yeah.
Something that I still use for my own work as well. It's always a resource that I have close to me.
Yeah. So what is sparkling? What is sparkling for you right now? Or what do you feel? I mean, I feel like the world is in such a weird place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's yeah, I just want to say one thing about the weird place of the world. Like for me, my traditionally when the world is a shit show, I go inside, and I just and maybe teach in that space, but like going in and being with what's flowing inside myself. I always feel like, oh, the only way I can deal with it is by going into myself and seeing what I can free up in there. Okay, that's all. So for you.
I guess for me, I'm really excited about exploring the concept of rest and pleasure, particularly for female bodies. Again, I'm sure it's helpful for men, but again, it's something that for women, it's like our bodies really need that water, really need that fertilizer. And probably what I'm getting closer to now is productive rest. Because there's a lot of power in knowing when and how and what for I want to rest, as opposed to just collapsing in front of Netflix, which I still do right
Oh
regularly.
yeah, absolutely.
That
Go
ahead.
I have one meditation that I do that I call the cat meditation. And I lay down on the couch. And it doesn't always happen that the cats, and I have three, it doesn't always happen that they come up, but it usually happens that at least two of them will come up. And I just lay there in stillness for as long as I can, which isn't that long. It might be 30 or 40 minutes. But it's like, okay, I just need to do the cat meditation. And like the weight and the heat and the living, purring bodies and me just being there. It's a productive meditation in this way of like finding pleasure and comfort, right? This connection. So yeah.
Yeah. And these idle spaces that get such a bad rep in this very, again, individual, get the result, get the KPIs, that kind of world makes us want to sort of like run all the time, whether you're in business or whether you're, I don't know, doing something entirely different. But again, the pressure to perform, the pressure to deliver, it's still there, even when you're doing something that's not productive or something to deliver or something like that. And I find it very interesting to explore these tiny pauses, right? I generally like to share this, I don't know even know if I would call it a tool, right? But when you're running, I'm late for something and I'm getting my stuff ready. And I like to give this cue to people, right? It's very likely you're going to get to your destination at the same time, whether you are squishing and squashing and pressuring your body or not. And it just takes 1 second to be aware of it and to shift. Of course, if you practice shifting out of those states, because otherwise you even if you're aware of it, you'll just go back to that, right? Because your body doesn't have an option to be more open, right? But really, it's a really small pause to say, who am I being right now? How am I being right now? Do I wanna do the rest of my day this way? And the capacity to shift, well, that's another thing, right? But then we have the capacity to shift after we made that tiny pause. Otherwise, we'll just keep running, and then there's the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah.
And bodies are constantly in that state of, shoulders are clenched and bellies are really clenched, and feet are tight, and that's pulling the leg, and then your back hurts. And this is sort of like the MO in bodies every day that are sort of within that rush that, again, sometimes, sure, you do need to get your kids, before school closes the door. But sometimes the rush is really not there, or not as we think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I do that trick also of like, because I also find like if you are rushing, there is a very good chance that you're going to knock something over. That's like, or you'll crash your car or something like if you aren't present. So I try to just land in the presence when I notice that, when I notice like, I will say that sometimes I actually enjoy rushing. Sometimes I'm like, it's exciting. It's like, I gotta catch the train. I gotta do this. I gotta do that. Like sometimes I enjoy it, but not always. And so it's like knowing what kind of rush it is and like, am I panicking? Am I charging around? And can I just slow down and really feel what it is to be in my body? I feel like that's one of the best
Yeah.
directives in anything. But especially like you're going to get in the car, you're going to do something that's like, can you just take a minute, get your bearings, and like calm it, you know?
I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes when we get too much into the self-development and too much embodiment and too much somatics, we're like, I need to be centered all the time, right? And I cannot be off-centered and not send like all the time. And that is not the end point, I think. Because we sometimes miss sort of like the fun of the range. And I guess there's also a lot of juiciness, both from male bodies and female bodies, that we enjoy being outside of the range. And this is where that messiness that we talked about earlier comes in, right? I can be centered in the messiness. I can be centered in the color. I can be centered in the needing other without necessarily being codependent. Or I can be centered in the distance without necessarily be avoidant. So playing with those ranges, and it's fun to sometimes be a little bit off center and enjoy the adrenaline, the thrill, right? For those more on those sides of the spectrum, or letting go and being full of pleasure, and you're not necessarily thinking how centered I am right now, how's my breathing, and but just really being able to fully be in the experience. That's also part of a state of embodiment that's worthwhile to explore, I
Yeah.
would say.
You brought something up within that I want to ask about in a little bit slightly different. Just what are the what are the downsides of really being somatically present in your body? I have some that I feel like, oh, when you spend your whole life feeling into your body with a lot of acuity and specificity and all this kind of stuff, like, and I noticed it during the pandemic. This is like one of the only ones though, is that like at first during the pandemic, I would do these like little somatic practices to fall asleep. Then I started to notice I felt my body way too much. So I would be sleeping and I would be awake in my body. So it's like, I mean, I'm resting, my brain's getting the break, but I have this life going on. So I started to notice that I needed to go to sleep, letting go of sensation, not trying to feel anything, but letting the pictures come. So it's like, oh, the dream is starting to awaken. And so it's like the imagery that is not distracting. Like being so in your body What else? What other, do you have any things like that that you feel like,
Well, one thing I would say, I don't know if it's close to what you're thinking of, but I would say it would be interesting to be wary of falling into rigidity,
oh yeah,
particularly if you have a story of coming from an embodiment of rigidity, and now it's sort of like rigid, like spiritual rigidity or embodied rigidity,
right.
because now it's like, no, I have to be breathing five counts in, five counts out, and it has to be that way. And then the rigidity is stopping the embodiment or the centeredness that you were really looking for.
I feel like that's what happens with a lot of people. It's like it becomes not a be present in and with like your consciousness arising in your body, but it becomes a control and hyper manipulate your experience by like when people talk about hacking the body, it's like, but you need to be listening to your body. You know, it's sometimes I mean we do want some hacks, but I do feel like it's also our language, especially English. It's so mechanistic and so machiney, right? Like everything, all of our, we don't have really good language about body parts, about sensation, about movement and types of flow. Like there's so much that could be looked at or sensed or, engaged with, but we don't, it's just blind to us because we don't have good language for it. I think we're starting to develop it, but it's really, we need some new words.
Yes. Again, I come back to that phrase, right? How we do one thing is how we do everything. So it's important to take into consideration that if we have a rigid structure, sometimes we add practices, we add spiritual practices, we add spiritual philosophies to that embodiment, to that model, and they're gonna sound nicer, but you're sort of still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Really hard to tell when you're just watching yourself, right? Because it
Yeah.
sounds, but it's not.
Are there other things like the
One thing that's
contraindications?
one thing that I was thinking of, I was listening to you share that, and I'm not sure, I'm just like thinking out loud about this. Sometimes when we really attune to that, being sensitive to everything that's happening for me, everything that's coming up, that extra sensitivity might make it hard to be in the world,
Yes. Yeah.
particularly in the world that we live in. That's not
Yeah.
that. I'm not, I want to be very careful into saying that that's right or wrong, because
Yeah.
maybe that very famous phrase, I want to say my memory is better, and I'm thinking and trying to remember who said this, but it's not a good thing to say that you're adjusted or adapted to a culture that's unadjusted, right?
Right. Yeah. 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 Mental illness. Like, yeah, of course. Look at the world that we're living in and the way that
Yeah,
we treat the planet. Yeah. And the way we treat our bodies, like the objectification of our own selves.
yeah. So I'm not saying that
Yeah.
hypersensitivity is
Yeah.
wrong. I maybe the world is what's wrong. I don't know, and not a
Yeah.
pathology of the person, right? But I would definitely say that it would make it hard. It
Yeah.
would just hard, and you need to really adjust your environments, or you're gonna have to make like these very drastic changes. I guess for now, for the world as it is, unless you want to become an activist and change that world, which
Right.
I'm that. But with that new skills around being centered, being present, we also want to keep, at least for now, some sort of flexibility around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But don't you feel like, I don't know if it's like this for you, but I feel like in a way, the edge of life rides along and like, oh, I have this one thing that I'm doing right now and it's amazing. And like, but tomorrow, something else is the amazing thing. I mean, like, let's just say like a sounding practice. Like I can like dive into my experience of being with like, just say, let's say we're just saying Om and we're maybe, oh, giving it a little bit of freedom to undulate. And one day it can be like, I am with the goddess. I am with God. I am in it 1,000%. And the next day it's like, oh, that's not really doing it so much. Like it's still doing something. It's still good, but it doesn't have that. Do you know what I mean? There is no one answer. It's like each answer on the different day is slightly different or
Yeah.
hugely different.
Yeah. And I also talk a lot about stages. Sometimes in our lives, we go through different stages and we need different things, right? Sometimes we do need the structure and, discipline and,
Yeah.
get it done. Sometimes we need to step back from that. So depending on what stage, particularly, the classical archetype of the mom, of the mother, of the woman who goes through mothering, the shifts that these bodies need to go through, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It's something that's beyond, it's always, I always say that it's such a challenge. And again, what you need and what you want, what you can expect from your body, from your capacities, then I guess should be shifting, right?
Yeah. I mean, we go through a lot. Like, I am not a mom, and I'm so happy I didn't have kids. I'm like, oh my God, I think about what women do and like how much they give. And I also see often how underappreciated they are and how poorly treated they are in the culture. And it's like, whoa. I
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I feel like not everybody. It's sometimes different. And certainly I know a lot of men that really step up and are part of the situation, or women that are working together raising kids, or like there's a lot of variety to it, but it's not easy. Like it's not an easy thing to do. And it's not something that we value very much in our culture, which is sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, coming back to from where we're approaching this topic, we want everything to be in a line, right? And you should, I love working with mothers from this angle, right? My body, I should go back to my body before I had the baby, right? Like
Right.
it didn't exist. Pretend that that's not going to have an effect on you, and just sort of like staying in that line of, delivering and showing up as this one person. And it takes away this, again, messiness and this, I don't even want to use the word messy here because I know how sensitive this is, right? And it's part of life, and we're so used to not seeing the messy side of life. Everything should be hidden. That's why
Yeah.
we don't say what we feel. We don't say what we're thinking. We cannot say it, right? And we're
Yeah.
supposed to dress and walk in a particular way. Again, I mean, I'm fully on board with, certain like agreements, because we're all sharing, there's like a billion of us sharing space, one rock, all of us have done it.
Yeah.
It makes sense to have some agreements, but many of these agreements have to do with shutting ourselves off and really like cutting ourselves short. And one of the things we cut is that messiness.
Yeah. Or yeah, it's hidden. It's behind the doors. Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about doing group workshops and being at in and many of those that I've participated in, and when there was one where they asked everybody to share their stories, and they did this like right at the beginning, because usually you don't get this level of openness scripted into the workshop plan till later. It was like a week-long retreat, I don't remember. But in this particular place where everybody was sharing, I noticed everybody was sharing sort of like the same line at the end of the day. And they all said, I thought I was the only one going through this. Were whichever story unique to each individual, but they were all sort of like so immersed and so closed into their experience, again, because we don't get spaces where we share about these messier sides and struggles with your past, with your childhood, with anger, with stuff that's bad. And then of course the side of that is I'm the only one and I'm weird and I should be, I should be like an outcast, or I
Yeah.
should
I don't
be
belong. Yeah.
right, right, because we're
Yeah.
all having this idea of I'm the only one going through whatever I know I'm going through. And the thing is, everybody or most people are carrying that.
Yeah.
And I used to say this a lot, sometimes in my head, sometimes aloud. If we all knew what we were all thinking, we would shed a lot of this.
Oh
Of
yeah.
this.
Yeah. It's interesting. This So I've been teaching movement for meditators, like on some non-dual meditation retreats with Michael and some online. And something that I'm finding is that a lot of both men and women, like everybody, has their story about their own body, about what's good about it, what's bad about it, what they should or shouldn't do. Like they have, like they're almost everybody is carrying, a whole other body of rules and regulations and what's right and what's wrong and bullying, all these things. Like, and people are adults now. And it's like they're still holding these old stories of how their family talked to them about their body or what they learned at school, or I was a nerd and I didn't play sports, or I was bad at throwing, or I didn't do this, and most people in their lives aren't going towards the thing that's hard, right? Let's do the hard thing. And then anything, we can do anything. But so it's so interesting to me, like when I am talking one-on-one with people, but especially guys, like the stories they have about what they should or shouldn't do in their body, what they're allowed to do, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. It's like we got a lot of shit to shed. Yeah. And then the other thing is about belonging, this sense of belonging. I used to say to my boyfriend, you belong, like if I'm sitting next to him, you belong right here on the planet. And the proof is here you are, right? And Mary Abrams, she'll say, gravity says you belong, right? You do. You haven't fallen off. You're here, so you belong. But it happens in my classes, like in my courses, sometimes people will come in, they're like, I really don't feel like I belong here. I'm like, you're here. Like everybody feels weird. We're all fucking weird.
Yeah, yeah,
Some of it look more like it. Others,
yeah,
it's hidden in other places.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the
And I
stories, yeah, that are holding us in.
and again, we don't come in contact with these things till we're in these messy places. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, or where we're opening up. Like, oh, I'm on this meditation retreat. I'm facing myself or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm in my own head for 4 hours in a row or whatever it is, or 8 hours in a day or however long. And it's like, oh, you just might hear what's being said inside there, the limiting beliefs or the self-loathing or whatever it is, like all the voices.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where that those bypasses come in really dangerously, I would say, right? Because I'm just gonna sit here, nobody has to know. And I mean, there's a space for nobody has to know about your stuff, right? That's another thing, right? But the I better not, because I need to keep this polished image for the outside and for myself to be okay with that. So I'll just sit here with my eyes closed, with my mouth closed, and I'll just do this meditation or these practices or this whatever, so that I erase all of those flaws and I come back and then I will belong because now I'm perfect, or now I am worked, right? Or I'm
Yeah,
enlightened, or whichever
yeah,
word you want to use. Mhm.
yeah. I had this great experience. It's one thing that I will say, like I can, having danced ballet for most of my life, and what I like about it is that it's never done. You are never good enough. And it's like it is a perfectionistic, it is patriarchal, it is all those things. There's a lot about it that's kind of horrific. There are, it's going to encourage young girls to be anorexic mostly, and even the boys, like you got to be skinny too. But there's really something to staying on a course that's very difficult and not no and knowing that there is no end point. There is no, you know, finished,
Yeah.
done. It's just not like that. So
Yeah.
I feel like that has helped me really to just be like on the spiritual, somatic, being a person path that has given me space to just keep showing up. And that's the other thing, the discipline, like with ballet, you just go every day. Like it's not a choice. Yes, you're hungover. Yes, something awful happened. Yes, this, yes, that, but go to ballet class because that's what you do. And like,
Yeah.
I feel like people don't have that kind of discipline. A lot of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how
Oh no, you have frozen.
So
We interrupt this program.
one of the motivators that keeps people in that discipline is that growth and that feeling of growth and the feeling of achieving, right? And again, there's nothing wrong for that, like very human, very biological thrill of fun or growth. That's another thing from the I need the prize and I need the award, right? And I need to know that I'm doing right. And I need to know that I got to the next level and now I'm the big guy, right? This is where a lot of, as you said, with ballet, you notice that you were able to understand this concept of now I can sort of like um, find another way to grow in this without necessarily have
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Um,
can grow without the story. Like I can go and just move. It's like, because that's the other thing. Like, and sometimes I'll say this, like, as I'm like doing like jazz isolations, and then we're gonna just twerk for a second. I'm like, it's just movement. It's just movement. Like we have culturally put all these things on it, and these stories might belong to cultures, but at the same time, it's movement. Like
yeah.
Pilates, like owning the name, or
Right.
it's movement. Whenever
Yeah.
people TM something, I'm like, really? Do
Yeah.
you own that movement?
Yeah.
I mean, I do believe that there is sort of, I don't want to go off course on this. Like there is a certain copyright for like choreography maybe, but sometimes we make something into, we can also deconstruct it down to just being the movement, right?
Yes. I once I was close to someone with this having this discussion, and this person said something like, at the end of the day, there's like a limited ways that a body can move, so it's just like naturally gonna happen. And yeah, I mean, I agree. Probably here in Mexico, I mean, even though there's like these methods, people more than the legal aspect, here it's like a lot of cultural associations to things. Like I particularly enjoy reggaeton music, which is sort of like a big
Yes.
thing here. I absolutely loved it when it started. And there's like really, I love how it just takes your hips, because there's like a lot of bass, there's a lot of drumming, there's a lot of, because originally from the origins of where this music comes from, there's a lot of these sort of like very baseline uh, sounds. And there's no other music that really moves my body so easily, particularly around the hips. And there's a joy that happens when that happens, right? But like, how can you do that, right? Like that's anti-spiritual. Or I would be, playing reggaeton music while driving to teach yoga, and it's like you cannot do both things, right? It's either or, and they cannot, you cannot have both things on the same plate. um I'm not also someone who would say like absolutely everything goes, but really observing the quality of what each practice brings to us. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, yeah,
Oh, just along that line, like I sing in a punk rock band. And
yeah,
sometimes I am actually singing, and sometimes I am screaming. And it's a somatic experience. I'm like, it's a workout. It's like I have a song where I'm playing the violin and I'm like, da, 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 and it's like it's a minute long song, but by the end of it, I'm like, whoa, that was so much. So I feel like just having these experiences, like I think you should start a reggaeton yoga class. I'm sure like people there are people that want that. And
yeah,
you're right. It's like it's the music and the rhythm that come from a certain continent have a tremendous power to
yes,
embody people, right? And like that's one of the things in the Western, um, like European culture. It has rhythm, but it doesn't have that deep bass rhythm. And like a lot of time ballet dancers just don't have rhythm. They can't go down. Like they can maybe, I can dance in my 8 count waltz, whatever, but we need that too. We need all of it. Like
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's not to belittle anyone, like, but I feel like it's really delicious to be able to have multiple flavors of movement, right? It's like, oh, and each of them offers something different that is emotional in a way. You know what I mean? Like the connection, it's not just like, oh, I just moved my body and I did this thing. No, it's like it can light you up.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. This is, I mean, you probably know more about this than I do, but dancing was illegal in some places a long time ago.
Brazil, that's one reason capoeira came, like, because the slaves couldn't use, they weren't allowed to fight, and they weren't allowed to look like they were fighting. So they did a dance instead. They could bring their rhythm in and dance, but they couldn't look like they were practicing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ballroom dancing also has some story around it. Like it was only, I don't know, under the queens, whatever, or like particular music or particular days, I think. And again, it
Oh yeah,
was sort
lots
of
of rules.
very structured, right? And
Yeah.
very, um, I have a friend that I have the fortune to be able to talk about these things and observe how different groups move in different ways, right? And how some groups have a lot of upper movement, right? Arms, they'll
Yes.
play with their arms, they'll lift their arms, they'll move.
Yeah.
Nothing happens below the waist, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes. It's
And
funny because I just saw it was somebody on Instagram, and it was a group of black guys talking, and they're like, you know how white women dance? They all dance with their arms up like this. And I was like, yes, I do that. But when I'm out there dancing with my arms up like this, none of the other white women are. It's usually that they're like, or the people, like, I'm like, when I have my arms up, I'm celebrating. I'm like, let me open my heart. This is a place of wonder. But it was like, it was funny. I just took it as a joke. The
yeah,
military in Europe, a lot of the dances, like each town in like let's say Hungary, Austro-Hungarian Empire, where Laban is from, each town had a different dance that they did, and the generals and the military would go and look and say, "Oh, that's a really good dancer. We want them." Because a
mhm,
good dancer is going to be a good fighter. A good dance and like the pageantry of the military is not unlike the pageantry of the town, right? Like, oh, we're going to have our dances, we're going to do our thing.
yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, it ties in so many ways.
Yeah, and just to complete that story, we also been discussing how also other groups will move the hips. There's a
Yeah.
lot of range, hips, knees, connection to the feet, but touching upon anything that's opening here, it's very threatening to use up space like more horizontally
Oh,
or
interesting.
vertically, or like something that's more visible here, right?
Yeah.
And it's just too much, right? And the bodies tend
Wow.
to be close in, particularly around the back. And I remember my friend's word here was wings, right? Their wings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. So again, it's so representative again of what happens culturally and the history that goes behind all of our bodies. We think it's our history or our bodies, but
And
we carry.
yeah. Yeah, no, we've got like the lineage, in our bones, and it's interesting because I started doing this dance project because I was like, well, I'm gonna just go back to my roots. And so I like was going into like Norse mythology and Celtic mythology. And something really interesting that I found out was that in Ireland, they had like universities and the poets would go, this ties in kind of, but it's about this cultural way that we move, that we embody things, that we learn. But the poets in at the universities, I think this is like maybe around 15, 1600s, and it might have been way before that. They would be given a prompt by their professor, and they would go into like a hut covered over in the darkness and spend 24 hours isolated in the dark, and then come out and reveal the poem. But it's like just this, like, what are the ways that we process, that we become creative, that we open the door for this creativity? And like, I mean, it's interesting just speaking on this cultural, spiritual level of like, what are we allowed to move? What can we show? And like, I mean, this one little like sort of jazz warm up that I do in my class, I've done it at big gyms, I've done it at small gyms, I've done it at the YMCA with all different types of people. Like, and I just get them to like, just throw your hips back. Now throw up your butt, throw up your butt. And they just do it. Like people just do it if you ask them if they think they're exercising. And it's like,
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Now we're letting go of some stuff.
yeah,
But it is so cultural how we look at other people and their movement and what they should be allowed to do and in controlling other people's bodies. Like this country is getting really good at it. And like, or like the drag queens, like we can't have the drag queens teaching. It's like this
Yeah,
has been something that's gone on forever. Like this is also theater. This is expression. This is freedom of expression. This is freedom. Like in Greece, initially in theater, the men played all the parts in a lot of places. Like
yeah,
that. So this gender stuff, it's not like, oh, this is this new thing that's happening. No, this has been there forever,
yeah,
way
yeah,
beyond that, you know?
yeah. You were mentioning something about controlled movement, right? And it's interesting because um most of the like lay options out there are controlled movement,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Like a teacher that tells you how to move, and
Am I
there's a
doing it right? Yeah.
yes, and the
Yeah.
follow, which
Yeah.
again, not discredit. Maybe you want the
It's great.
exercise,
Yeah.
maybe you
It's
want models, the art, whatever, right? But when we're talking about this movement as a way to connecting to self, to knowing what's up, to learn the autonomy that you can learn from moving on your own,
mhm.
touch upon that anywhere. It's like we're really prehistoric here, right? Because there are very few spaces where you can actually practice that. You would say, oh, dancing. But if you go to any club where there are 20-year-olds, I would seriously doubt, I haven't done that in a million years, but I seriously doubt that you'll see people connecting to their freestyles.
Right.
Mostly you'll see, at least in the places that I'm closer to, you'll see people, or at least for women's bodies, what am I supposed to do? What am I allowed to do? What am I not going to be recording and upload on social media with?
Right.
Again, there's sort of like a flat standard um, that where we are allowed to move, and we miss out on all of what the capacities, the qualities, the skills that we can develop when we learn to move in more autonomous ways.
Yeah. And I mean, for me in my journey, it has been learning a million different styles and then doing whatever I want with them. Like the freedom aspect of it, because I
Yeah.
never fit into anything. I'm like, no, like I'm always my own little weird ball of whatever. Or you could say I fit into everything and nothing at the same time. So it's not like this big thing. But like finding how things land. And I feel like for me choreographically, it's not like I'm going to do this step and this step and this step. It may come that way, but it's also like no, the music is speaking to me and there's a relationship there and like there's spaciousness in it. There's all this stuff going on. So it's like it's a conversation of me and
Yeah.
the music or spirit or whatever, like whatever's coming out, the thing that needs to be, which isn't like, oh, this big thing I'm revealing this. It's not at all. It's not like that. It's just like, oh, I'm just allowing a little bit of something out. And but it's for me, like it's heaven. It's heaven to dance both sides of like the hyper controlled specific. It has to be like this. And then it's totally free and I can do whatever I want. I mean, there
Yes.
is a little bit of that. And it's funny. In my teaching of movement for meditators, I'm like, I give them a lot of like lob on space, like what's it like to be moving in the backspace? What's it like to do? Now, what if you just, shake in the backspace? Or like I give them all of these tools and then now just let your body move however it wants to move. And like most people like can't let their body move. They can't allow movement. It takes a lot of undoing. However, in the container of these things, often people they give themselves the permission somehow. It's like, and they love that freedom. One of the guys was like, I love how you taught us dancing in as you were pretending to teach us geometry,
Yeah.
People
That.
want to dance. It's in our bodies. We're supposed to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a big thing of what I was talking about with guys and with their stories about what's allowed and what's not allowed, you know. And not just guys, women too. It's like how are you allowed to move?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like a gender thing there, right? Right, happening for men. I'm curious to explore, but I mean, I have seen some enough embodiment of how shows up for men, really, regardless of their nationality. Uh, a difficulty for men to allow that, right? Because it's not supposed to be male attributions associated. Um, but yeah, for women, it's also hard. It's also hard, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it also depends. Like I mean, the way that I see it in the Western world is that most people have spent their life learning how not to move, like how to be still. And so to like break out of that can have like a lot of you might actually have to be alive. You know what I mean? Like you might actually want to experience life or set some of the stuff free because yeah, the patterns implanted, installed, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've been on here for a long time. Is there anything that you feel like it's important to say or anything that you feel like that you would like to touch on?
Um, Probably just, I mean, I mentioned this probably a couple of times because I always like to say this, even when I do stress the importance of these female oriented places or feminine energy oriented places, because men will benefit from this as well. This doesn't mean that the more structure and linear practices are bad or they are useless. And this is probably where I would wanna end our conversation today. It depends on what you need. It depends on
Yeah.
what you at whatever point you're in your life, whatever again stage, like I mentioned, you are in your life, that this is what we want to look for, not necessarily like a dogma or a philosophy or what's right or what's wrong, but what's needed.
Yeah, I think that like what's needed and with being with and what's needed like are kind of the most important things that may be just a slightly different lens coming from females, like or coming from a more female oriented, although like I'm a super dude girl. You can't tell. But like it's I mean, we all have all of it within ourselves.
It's true, and people will tend to sort of like wanna like classify you, right? And people usually associate a lot of like feminine energy also for me when they see me or when they like know me, but I have also a lot of like structure behind that, and there's a lot of solidity, like holding on to that, right? It's or not holding on to, but like sustaining or creating a
Yeah.
structure for that. It's not just flowy stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean we it is this intertwining and balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the conversation.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And
Thank
I'm just gonna end the recording. People in TV land, if you made it this far, you win. You win the prize.
you.
You listened.